Hi, I'm Nigel Griffiths. I work in the Advanced Technology Centre in the UK, part of IBM Europe. In this second IVM movie, we're going to prepare for our first client logical partition. Okay, we log back onto the IVM website with the default panel here, and we want to set up the TCP/IP settings ready for our first client logical partition. First though, I'd like to remind myself about how we're actually connected the IVM itself to the network, because we might as well use that same network. So we're looking at the view and modify TCP/IP settings. Here's our host name. If you look at our network interfaces on the machine, we'll see this is the network we've applied our IP address for IVM itself. So it's EN0, and we can see that this is a 2-port. It's actually a PCI Express adapter. So I think kept things nice and simple here, and we can see that the second port is down here below, and the state is down, so there's no cable actually in the actual port. We could also use, just below here, we have the logical host Ethernet port. This is the HEA, also known as the IVE, the Integrated Virtual Ethernet. This is the special device inside the machine that allows high-speed and low-latency networks. We could equally use that. In this case, we've just kept it simple by using the first adapter in the machine. We can see that none of these are actually connected at the moment. Further down here we have the actual virtual Ethernets that we're going to configure in a minute. If we go back up the top, we can see EN0 is the interface name, and we might also use that for bridging out our virtual Ethernets that we're preparing for our first client. If we go here to now view modify virtual Ethernets, we'll see how those are currently set up. Here we go. So these virtual Ethernets are connected to the partition name. This is our IVM partition itself. If we look here at the virtual Ethernet bridge, take that tab, we can see that our virtual Ethernets are not connected over a bridge out to the physical network. So we could talk between logical partitions on a virtual Ethernet once we've created them, but we couldn't get the packets outside of the machine. They'll be talking across the memory inside the machine. But we want them to port out because hopefully they are going to be talking to users and running applications and things. So we connect this first virtual Ethernet to the physical device that we were using, the ENT0 in this case. That means that our packets will now get bridged in and out, and we'll just apply that. It will take the IVM a little while to do the setup. It actually has to disconnect the TCP/IP settings, make the bridge, and then put them back up. So there we are. We now have the Ethernet ready for creating our first logical partition. Now let's have a look at our virtual storage space. We'll click over here for View Modify Virtual Storage. We haven't any virtual disks at the moment. We look at our storage pools. This is the space out of which we could allocate virtual disks for our clients. At the moment we only have one storage pool, which is called root VG. This is actually the disk space used by the IVM server itself. If we look at the physical volumes, we can see here that IVM is running on this first disk. It's recommended that we actually mirror this to 2 disks so that if we have a disk failure, our IVM will carry on running. But then we have 4 other disks here that we could use for the client disk space. So we go back to storage pools. Let's create a new storage pool here. Let's select these last 2 disks. We have to give it a name. And we'll set this to be the default storage pool so that if we just create a disk, it will naturally come out of this pool. And we can either make it logical volume based, in which case we'll create a logical volume on these disks and present that as a disk space to our clients. The alternative is file based, so we'll actually create a large file and present that to our clients. The logical volume based has been around a long time, and that's what I tend to recommend. The file-based is quite good if you want to copy and back up these things. It can be a tiny little bit slower, but Otherwise, much the same. Okay, so now we have a new pool here and how big it is. Now we're ready to create our clients and allocate space out of our storage pool.